Okay, so your kit includes, you're going to get a sponge brush, makeup sponge, selection of paint, as well as your wooden pieces. So you're going to have the top part, which is the mountains, and the front part, which holds your pot holder, and then they fit together like a puzzle. So 2 pieces of wood, as well as a cute little mini pot holder, clay pot, and you're going to have 25 pre-cut pieces of macrame cord. So that is all you need. Grab your supplies and we'll get started. All right, so we are ready to get started. I'm gonna start painting my pot first, so then by the end it's nice and dry. So I just wanna paint this nice and simple. I'm just gonna paint this whole thing white. So we'll be painting the outside of it as well as the bottom. We do not have to paint the inside, especially if you plan on planting something. So we're gonna just be doing the outside. So in order to do that, I am going to take my sponge brush here, take a little bit of paint. Now this is very, very important when you're painting this, that you do this in layers. If you do not, if you end up putting a thick coat on, it's not going to dry evenly or quickly. We want to do multiple thin layers, and it absolutely must dry in between. Otherwise, when you go to put on your second layer, it's actually gonna peel off that first layer that you did. So we want to make a nice even coat all the way around. And again, nice and thin. And we'll always get to touch up those spots with our second and third coats if necessary. You can either hold your pot or you can put it right down upside down on the table, whichever you prefer. Perfect, so there's my first coat. I'm just gonna set that down, let it dry. Make sure that it's dry completely before I do my next coat. All right, so my pot is nice and dry to the touch, and I am ready for my second coat. Again, making sure that I'm just doing nice thin layers, and multiple layers will end up covering it beautifully. All right, so that's my coat number 2. Again, I'm just gonna let it dry and do one more coat. Okay, so I have painted 3 coats on my pot, again, allowing it to dry in between each coat fully. Now I'm just gonna paint the top of the inside here. I'm not painting the whole inside, we don't need to do that. I just wanna do the top little portion here and maybe the first inch or so on the inside. And again, this does not have to be perfect because we're gonna be ending up planting something in here. So this is just to give it a quick little coat, and that's it. All right, so I've done the top rim and just the first little portion of the inside, and I'll allow that to dry. While my pot is drying, I'm gonna work on our mountain pieces here. So I decided to go with like a white and blue color, and I'm going to do the bottom darker, and then I'm gonna ombre it to the top. So it's nice that we have the 2 colors there as well. So with this part, you have a couple options. You may either use the same foam brush that you were using before, or if you wanted, you can actually use your makeup sponge. So it is a bit of a bigger area to paint, but this allows your paint to dry extremely fast and give it a perfect little flat layer. So I know that I want this portion to be blue as well as this portion because it's going to end up sitting in there like this. So if you look at your pieces, you're going to have one side that has a little bit of burn marks, that's the back. We're gonna be working on the front side. So to use your makeup sponge, you're actually going to dip it into your paint, just take a little bit on there, and then I'm actually gonna take most of that off, which seems silly, but you'll understand in a moment. So once I get a very thin layer of paint on there, I can go ahead and start painting this. Now, It is super important that we do not fill any of these tiny little grooves with paint. If I put too much paint on there, they're going to seep in there and gob it all up, and we don't want that. So this manner is going to help prevent that. So with this, I'm now just going to dab it directly up and down. I can go right over any of the spaces, and it's not going to get any paint in there. So as I run out, I'll get a little bit more paint and just keep continuing. And again, I'm keeping this to the bottom because I know I want this to be the darkest point. So again, you can use your sponge brush for this. Again, just making sure that it is the thinnest coat and that paint does not squeeze into any of those areas. Because it fits like a puzzle piece, we need those holes to be fully open. Okay, so I have my first coat of that blue, and what's nice is because it's such a thin coat, I can actually go right back to where I started and immediately do my second coat. Okay, so I have done 2 coats on there. I'm gonna give that just a quick little minute to dry, and I'm gonna do a third. Most colors of paint you can probably get away with 2. So if you're happy with 2, you're free to move on, but I'm just going to do 1 more just to make sure that it is nice and solid. All right, so I am all done. I ended up doing about 4 coats on here because I wanted it to be nice and solid. But it is fully dry. I took a little hair dryer to it really quickly to speed up that process. But now I'm ready to continue on my mountains here. So I'm gonna make a gradient. So with that, what we want to do, so I have my blue and my white paint here. And I know that my blue is gonna be the darkest part. So I'm gonna take a small amount of white and I'm going to mix a new shade right here, a lighter shade of blue. Right about there, not too light yet. Perfect, so once I have that new shade and I'm happy with it, it's lighter than my original, but it's not too light that I'm working up to white. So I have this new shade and I'm gonna go just kind of in this area here. The same motion, same technique. All right, so I'm happy with that. Now I'm gonna make a lighter shade. So again, I'm just gonna keep adding a little bit more white into that color that I created, so it's lighter and lighter each time. Okay, so I'm happy with about there. I'm gonna go my next little section here and kind of overlap a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just carefully blending these edges here so it doesn't look like a harsh line. I just want to soften that edge. All right, so I'm happy with that. I'm gonna make a lighter shade and then just do the very tip of it white. So again, I'm adding a little bit more white into this shade here. Make it much lighter. Perfect. I'm going to do the same thing and then leaving just white on the very tips. Okay, so I have my next shade there and then I'm going to do white at the very tip. So again, I'm just going to take a tiny bit of my white. I don't need very much. And then go straight at the top. Excellent. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back in with my dark blue now and just soften up this edge so I don't have it too rough. Awesome. So our project is all painted. I just softened up that bottom edge there so it has a little bit more of a softer ombre to it. Once this is totally dry, we are ready to add our macrame. So I'm just gonna move this guy to the side. I'm gonna get all of my macrame pieces here. So this is called a Larks head knot. This is the simplest attachment onto our bottom section here. So what you're going to do for every piece of this, you're going to take one piece of cord, you're going to find your ends and match them up, and then follow it to the middle so it makes a loop. With that loop, you're going to put it into the front of the bottom section here, and you're going to grab those two tails and pull them through, just like that. So you're going to end up with something that looks like you're gonna have two vertical lines and then one horizontal line with your tails hanging down below. And you're gonna go all the way across and do that with all of your pieces of cord. So again, this is a Lark's head knot. You're going to take one piece of cord, find your ends, go up to the middle till it creates a loop. That loop is going to go into the front of our piece. Now, take your fingers through that loop in the back, grab those tails and pull them through. And just like that. And you're gonna do that all the way across. Okay, so I have all of my macrame on there with my Lark's head knot. If you find that anything is starting to kind of come loose or fall off, all you have to do is just give it a little wiggle and a pull, and it'll tighten right up for you. So I would go ahead, tighten everything up and space everything out equally. So it is all nice and lined up. And everything should be roughly the same size because they are pre-cut. So all the lengths should be roughly the same size. If for whatever reason you don't like it or you need to trim it, you can go ahead and take some scissors and give it a little haircut once everything is where it needs to be. Okay, we are ready for assembly. Now, this is going to fit together like a puzzle piece. So these little notches in our piece here are going to fit into the holes on the mountain. And it's a nice snug fit, so it should not fall out. There we go. And once that is in there, you can put your pot once it is dry. And you're all finished. You can hang this on your wall and enjoy. Thank you so much for following along our little mountain macrame pot holder. It's such a cute project. I love that it mixes wood and paint and textiles all together. So I bet it's adorable and it's gonna look adorable on your wall and we would love to see it. So please tag us on Instagram at Pinovate and DIY Delivery. We're also on all of the platforms. So follow us on YouTube, on Facebook, all the things. So thanks again for following along and we'll see you later. Bye.